Hi guys, welcome to the channel of love. Okay, I'm going to pre-warn you that this is going to be a very sensitive reading. It's time though. It's time that a divine feminine maybe gave her a point of view, suggestions, tips is what's come up. Okay, I was actually doing the ironing and then I'm getting all these messages and it's like, come on, we need to speak about the divine feminine and the karmic and the divine masculine. Although divine masculine, this reading might have your eyes like bulging and it might shift your whole universe, and I'll try and be sensitive with the information. That's all I can say, but it needs to be spoke about. Okay, so hi, my name's Lucy, in case you wasn't aware. Let's talk, because we're speaking about, in the last reading, I am really going to struggle with the eye contact. I could come on and just speak to you directly. It's like, oh, don't make me do it so long. Give me some cards to go by. So in the last reading, it was picking up the energy of the karmic partner. And we really need to have a look into these terminologies that we use and how we take them personally. It's like we've all been through karmic experiences, had karmic partners to learn a lesson from. It's not a bad thing. They lead you, hopefully, if you learn the lesson, to actually your true love. And that's for all of us. Okay, but we have lessons we need to learn. So that's why we're kind of called karmic partners. And then you have a divine feminine, and that's someone that actually has seen through the illusion, done the work, and wants to be here to help and inspire and love and cherish all. Okay, and help them on their journey. That's what a divine feminine is. She's strong enough to do that because she's been through the mill herself. I was going to say to you, I had to stop the ironing to do this. Yes, I do the ironing, and it's kind of like, we're human. We still do and have the same experiences that all of us do. It's just how we handle it, and how we want to handle it. And this is really about handling the situation. Now, the divine masculine, he's not very good at handling this situation, but being a divine masculine, he too does want to serve the highest good for all, including himself. So we get into these karmic relationships, okay? It's not often that you would meet your true love, and be with them straight away. But that's kind of like what we're wanting to kind of guide our world on noticing the signs, okay? Because there's a strong chance you could have met your true love when you were younger, okay? And there'll be signs to indicate that that connection that you're not aware of at the time. Excuse me. Okay, let's get back to this. Otherwise, I'm going to go off seriously on lots of tangents, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep this focused. So what I'm going to give you is some tips, and we're going to use these cards to direct the flow of the chat that's going to come out. Okay? Okay. Tips. I'm using the Fuego cards because these are the ones that just seem to be a bit, I don't know, the illustrations are very just bizarre. So it's like, what tips is she going to tell? Well, first of all, we're going to speak about, well, we've got the divine masculine in the world here. You're covering up divine masculine, and that's, you're good at doing that. A big cover-up job. You've got the foxes, the moth, the sloth, and the anteater. And then here you are covering up. Okay. Now I have the divine feminine here. This is the high priestess energy, and she's pointing at the small print. Your eyes boggling at the top here. Uncomfortable, yes. Your universe, your home could shift here. Look. This could change your world. Now we have the Nine of Swords, but I feel like the hedgehog here is actually the divine feminine, and this is to do with the karmic energy coming down to like bite her head off. And it's like you won't actually get far. Okay, it's the protection here of the Christ flame, the flame of Christ. And so I want to give you some tips as well about how to approach a divine feminine if you're wise. And also I want to give the divine feminine tips on how to approach, you're not to approach the karmic. The karmic will approach you. A divine feminine doesn't go looking to seek revenge in any case. It should be throughout her life, really. Okay, the divine feminine is not a naturally revengeful person. Okay, now I've had 2 affairs in my life. The first one, okay, I'll tell you some of the story. I was 16, a very mature 16-year-old. You have to remember I was raising children from the age of 11. So around about the age of 14, my actual next door neighbour, they had 4 children. And I would look after their children, 14, 15 maybe 15. But I would look after their 4 children along with my 2 sisters' children, and we lived next door. I'd have 6 children to look after. And it would be like all day I'd look after these kids. So I wanted to be an au pair. I really seriously wanted to be a nanny. I love children. So I was a very mature 16-year-old. Okay. And I found myself one point in a situation where my next door neighbour's husband showed interest in me. And this was not my divine masculine, okay? There wasn't that initial attraction. There wasn't that. It was kind of like, you know, when you get used to someone just being interested in you. And it feels nice. And so it was something that was gradual. I was 16. We're talking here, guys, back in 1994. I was 16 and our relationship developed. I was very aware that he was married. I was so petrified. I mean, his wife was actually like the hardest person in the estate as I viewed it. I come from a place where like chavs originate from. This was a woman not to mess with. Head to toe in tattoos, very stocky woman who went out fighting all the time. But I looked after her children and she was friends with my sister, very close friends with my sister. My sister knew nothing about it. And yeah, it happened. Okay. And it also got found out. So 3 years later, our relationship had already started to disintegrate, you can call it that, because as soon as I turned 18, I went to actually work for a bingo hall. So they operate quite a lot. And believe me, when I wasn't there, his wife and my sister would be there. Okay, so they actually come to my place of work. So I left when I was 19. That's when the affair came out. So I've actually been approached by a karmic energy. Anyway, I could go into that story a lot more. I don't feel the need to. All I can really say, do I tell you about the synchronizations? I could do. Okay, so our affair came out and I was actually out that day at my best friend's house and we were visiting her mum, who just so happens to live in the area that my divine masculine currently lives in. And he didn't actually move there until I found out later, until actually I left the area and he moved into it. So that's a little sync there. But when I was, so I was at my friend's, okay, mum's house, very embarrassing, as you can imagine. No one knowing about this affair. Obviously my best friend did. She would cover my ass all the time if I was like going to go out and meet. I'd just say that I was hanging out with her. I was a young girl. And I was at her house, her mum's house, and I got a phone call. Now, mobile phones, back in 1997, this is, beginning of 97, January. I had a mobile phone, okay. Why did I have a mobile phone? Because I had a very good credit history. And so it was actually my next door neighbour who asked me to get a mobile phone so that her husband, who I was having an affair with, could have a mobile phone so he could be contacted while he worked on the roads. So he had the phone and then they didn't want it anymore and I took over paying the contract. It was like you'd have an itemised bill come through. And otherwise you just use pay phones. I mean, it was a brick. And I was only young really to have a mobile phone. Anyway, so I was in possession of this mobile phone at that time. It was called the People's Phone, I remember. Great big aerial on it. And my phone went and I answered it as my sister. And she asked me whether or not I had been sleeping with my next door neighbour. And automatically I said no. And then she said that the daughter had seen something and said something. And as soon as the daughter's name was mentioned, I knew I couldn't lie. I couldn't live with that. So I said, no, it's true. She said, well, you can't come home. It's like going fucking crazy here. I mean, my sister lived next door and with my nephews and, oh boy, what a mess I had caused. Okay. So I never went home, ever. I stayed, I went to another, I had to go and hand in my notice first. So I had to go to my job. But it was kind of like, I could see my best friend's mum just looking at me, and then I had to tell her what had happened. I remember always saying to me, it will all work out. It will all work out. And she said that to me many years later. She said to me, do you remember when I told you it would all work out? So I actually went to my place of work petrified. This woman was going to kill me. Seriously, kill me. I knew her. This was not going down well. She had already kind of hit my sister, thinking my sister had known about it. My sister didn't know anything about it. So I was carrying a lot of guilt and fear. At the age of 19, I had to handle this situation. So I went to my place of work. They was in a meeting, I remember. You remember things like this, like crystal clear. They was in a meeting and I'm sitting there thinking, I've got to tell them that not only have I got to leave like immediately, but you might be getting some trouble over here, seeing as they visited that establishment. So then I left work. Okay, and I stayed at my colleague's house that night, and I thought this is no good. So then I went to my other sister's house, who no one really knew. She wasn't really part of like the chav gang. So no one really knew where she lived, and I stayed there for a while. I don't really know how long, whether it was longer than a week, but it was there, I remember, because her and her husband, her current husband at the time, they both went out to work and I was just left in this house. I remember someone pulling up, a friend of the family's turning up in an old beat out Land Rover and just handing me a couple of black bags and just looking and saying, I'm so sorry, Lucy. And it was just all my stuff, and this stuff looked like it had been trashed. There was diaries that had been ripped. It looked like they'd been thrown against the wall. It was just like, holy fucking shit. Then I had my nephews. It was like, what on earth do they... I was just in so much guilt. So much guilt. And my phone went. Now, I was actually hoping it was going to be him. And he had left. Because I hadn't spoke to, like, my sister didn't actually speak to me again after that initial conversation. A lot happened. I caused a lot of shit, guys. But everything works out in the end. I get a phone call and I had my phone left on because I was hoping that he was going to call me. And it wasn't, it was her. And I got the mouth. Actually, no, she called me that night after I'd been to the bingo hall to hand in my notice. She called me that night when I was around my friend's house because I got a bit cocky with her because she was really like, I'm going to... You wait till I get my hands on you. And I was like, well, you're going to have to find me first. So I was already on the run. A little bit cocky, but it's like, you know... I did try to talk to her. She asked me some questions. I answered them honestly. And she actually wanted to end the call. She forgot that we were, like, arguing. And she was like, okay, I'll speak to you later then. And then it was like, I fucking hate you. And it's like, okay, guys, it's fucked up. Don't get involved with a married man. Just don't do it. Seriously, it's heartbreaking. Anyway. But a lot of people do have affairs, like a lot. And they have to carry this. So I was pleased in a way. Now looking back, it's all come out because that karma's kind of, I'm not looking over my shoulder anymore. It's just like it's been years. And I'm not worried anyway. I didn't face her. I spoke to her then. But after the little spell at my sister's, I went to my mum's house. Now, we had some trouble there because she did know where my mum lived. But I wanted to be with my mum. So we're talking petrified where I wouldn't go through the streets without being crouched down, like in a chair, like proper under camouflage. Seriously, if there was just too many people, the whole news had been spread out across the area. Like my whole reputation, it was just like, what reputation? I was called every name under the sun. People like, well, that respected me were totally and utterly shocked. My dad finding out, my mum finding out, my sister finding out. Listen, it was just one big fat mess. So, but I managed to sneak through the streets. And I can't remember how I got in my mum's house, but I remember going in the back door, so I must have had a key. And I found her in bed. And I went up to her bedroom and I just crouched down, and she just opened her eyes. My mum would never call me Lucy, that was her name. My full name is Lucy May. And she was like, Lucy May, I was just dreaming about you and now you're here. And I stayed there until the march. And I had to hide. I couldn't go near the windows. I couldn't answer the telephone, like the landline. I couldn't answer the door. They were surveying my mum's house out the back, just trying. They were knocking on the door. I was there, and they knocked on the door. I heard my mum on the phone to them. Like, anyway. So I'm like, oh fuck, I'm fucked. So what do? Well, I was like, I need to find somewhere far away, far enough away, where I can actually work and live. So that was the plan. That's when I managed to actually get away. And not even for a year. I was back, I think it was about the October time. I managed to just get away and kind of, try and start again and put it all behind you. But I'm going to rewind now back to when I was staying with my sister before I went to my mum's. This man that I was having an affair with, we wrote lots of letters to each other, and I had them because that's what you do, isn't it? You keep letters like that, little love letters. So I had all these letters, and one day my phone went, and it was her. And I was still at my sister's, so this is within a few days of like it coming out. And she just said to me, I've got someone who wants to speak to you. And she puts him on. And I remember the words that he said to me crystal clear. He went to me, I never loved you, you never meant anything to me, and I hate you, you dirty little slut. And seriously, my response was, okay, charming. She come back on the phone, I asked her if she was happy. She said that she hadn't heard, that she was out on the stairs. And I was quite pissed, to be honest with you. It was like, I didn't fucking deserve that. And I went to her, because she said about evidence, and I said, I've got some letters, you can have the letters. So that was like, I suppose, my only revengeful part that came out after that comment when she came back on the phone. I said, I'm done with it. She said to me, he said it was only a one night stand. I was like, it was for 3 years. And she was like, well, how do I believe you? And I said, well, I have letters. And she was like, send me the letters, send me the letters. I don't know if we had spoke about this previously, because I was like, no, I'm not sending you the letters. And then I have another phone call when he says that, and I went to where you can have the letters. But I never sent them. I couldn't break someone's heart by sending them the letters. But what I did do was fuck her mind up so much that she tried to kill herself. And the next thing I actually found out was that her and my sister were in the same hospital. My sister was like in a loony ward, because she had completely lost the plot, couldn't speak to me, couldn't deal with me. And my, the wife had tried to commit suicide. I never did send the letters. Actually, my mum took them from me, and I reclaimed them when my mum died, because they were still in her drawer. So what happened? I moved away from home. My family, my sister, we never spoke about it. We wasn't allowed to speak about it. He was a dirty pervert. I was a child that was left to look after 6 kids. But hey, listen, I was abused. I was abused when I was a child, and I had a difference about being abused and actually having feelings for a nice man. He was a nice man. He deserves better. And we had fun together. It was good conversation, but nothing like the twin flame connection. And so I moved away. So I went away, and so I went away to work where I could live. And actually, what's surprising is, because it was a holiday camp, It's surprising is that that's actually where I met my divine masculine. And that was like love at first sight. I can't deny that. So as soon as I laid eyes on him, I was like, who the fuck are you? Like that. And I was 19. And another thing is when my mum died and I found all the letters, because I didn't have a mobile phone, I couldn't even pay to keep the bill. I couldn't even pay to keep the bill. You get me? I couldn't pay the bill. So I got myself in some serious debt. It was like a clean, fresh slate. And I actually wrote letters home to my mum, and I mentioned my divine masculine in them letters. I do still have them letters. The other ones, I got rid of them. I carried them into my marriage with my husband, because what happened is when I kind of went back home in the October, I couldn't stay there. It hadn't been long enough. I was petrified. So I actually moved really down south and moved in with one of my mum's friends. Absolute nightmare. I'd gone back to being like in the slumps myself after living like a few months alone. But listen, it was help. He was willing to help me. And oh my goodness, there's so many more things, but I'm not going to tell you about them. I got a job and in a factory. Used to make ceiling lights and lamps. You know, the ones you hang from your ceiling? Yeah, I used to make those. There was a lot. There was about 100 women who worked the benches, and then there was the men who were in the storeroom. And they used to bring out the kits so you could make, you had to do a batch of 100 at a time. Electrocute yourself, I love it. Anyway, I used to box them up, and put little notes inside the boxes and put, help me, I'm being held hostage. Oh, used to piss around. Anyway, and I met my husband. Now, he was interested in me. I could see that. That was evident. I wasn't that interested in him. But again, I kind of got into that loop of, oh, but you show me affection, and that's nice. And he was such a quiet man who, he was a good pick for what I had been through. I knew he wasn't going to hurt me. He was secure. He felt safe and secure. And then I was married for a lot of years. Okay, until my divine masculine and me reconnected. My divine masculine and me reconnected late 2013. Okay, and we sparked something again. Where are we going with this? We're going to the small print. Lots of details here. Guys, I'm rambling. Seriously, I have a lot of stories to tell you. So what am I trying to get at? Don't fuck around with married people. How about that one? Learnt the lesson. Jeez. Lost a lot. Caused a lot of grief. Shit. Won't be doing that anymore. I want to kind of say about... we've got a little black thing. A little fly. It's just a little one. What do I want to talk about now? Because I have totally lost where I was meant... I told you I go off on a tangent. Maybe I've said enough on how to deal with a karmic energy. Honesty, most definitely. No need to be afraid, divine feminine. It is something that, if you're aware that your partner, your divine partner, is in another relationship and they've been at some point having an affair, or just things that they know, you wouldn't want your husband doing, you're always going to be looking over your back. Now, I don't believe it's the role of the divine feminine to go and cause trouble with the karmic. Why would you? It's just like, you leave it be. I left. I just leave situations. It's like, if it comes, then it comes, and I'll just deal with it then. But do you know how to deal with it? I definitely would not play that game of, you can have this then, just to kind of get revenge, okay? That is really fucked up. And I knew as soon as I said it, I was just angry. And it's like, no one in this world can I send this lady these letters. They just wasn't in love. I wouldn't have had an affair with someone who was happily married with his wife. I've got lots of stories I could tell you about what she was doing behind his back that I never once told him about. But she would tell me because she thought we were friends. And we were. It was just, I was giving her husband something that she wasn't. But she was getting it elsewhere. I mean, we're talking to the point where, you know, you're not even sure if all the children are his. And I just zipped it. I just kind of went through this. So, listen, we're all as bad as one another. But it's being able to actually talk about this. So what am I saying regarding 10 Downing Street? I don't know. I have a 5 of Cups here, which is about emotional loss. Someone's got their, like, I was looking at this picture, someone's got themselves hidden in this cup down here, look. I just see their bum popping out. Oh dear. Okay, and then we've got 10 Downing Street. Are we done? How long was that on for? 25 minutes? I feel like I have more to say about this situation. How are you going to deal with the karmic? How will you deal with it if and when it arises? I do think it's best out in the open. You're not always kind of watching your back. Not that I'm watching my back. I don't really have any fear. I can tell you about one statement I said to my masculine, my divine masculine that I'm talking about. Because he had a wife. And, I said he had a wife. I don't really know the situation, guys. As far as I'm aware, he has a wife. And I said to him, what would your wife do if she found out about me? I said, am I like in danger, physical danger? And a few things highlighted. He said, you have to remember, guys, I wasn't like doing this and spiritually like awoken. I wasn't aware that it was spirituality. I was speaking lots of truths that I realise now planted maybe lots of seeds. But you can reflect back later, can't you, from the other side? And he said, no, I don't think she would hit you. She would probably hit me. That's a bit concerning. But she wouldn't think twice. I'm not sure if he said if she would jump in the car and drive to me. And I thought, well, does she know where I live then? Do you know where I live? And then he told me another example of when she had rang someone that thought was cheating with her husband. So it's this impression that she will either turn up or ring me. And I remember my response, I was like, that's not a good thing. You probably want to tell her not to do that. And I said, not because I'm scared. It was more of, she's not going to like what I'm going to say to her. She's going to like walk away feeling really fucking hurt. It's like, I will put her in her place about a few things. I don't plan on fighting. I don't know about protecting myself. We'll see what occurs at the time. It's like, you always have to be prepared. Like, if you fucked around and it's not being like cleared or it's not out in the open, I mean, it's the same with the divine masculine when like ignoring the divine feminine. Surely, he must be always looking over his shoulder or worrying about whether or not the divine feminine all of a sudden is going to message him, text him. Especially if like the divine masculine's been ghosting the divine feminine. So there's always that kind of, I remember what it was like, okay, when I got involved with my divine masculine, I was married. I'd actually got back with my husband. What's actually really bizarre is I remember these days, it was bonfire night. And if you know my story, I split up with my husband for a year and then he moved back in for a year. And then I realised in the bonfire night, November the 5th. And I realised, I'd made the decision then, I was going to tell him that it was kind of, I'm done. I can't carry on. Nothing had changed. It moved back in. Things had gone back to the old way of being and I was unhappy again. So I actually spoke to my sister about that. The next day, my divine masculine and me reconnect the very next day. And it was about a week before I was doing a coaching session with a friend of mine who had joined my business. And we were writing what you would call a warm list. So it was just like, write down everyone that you know, every single person that you know. And it's like, we're not going to do anything with the list. We're going to call them in. We're going to energetically call them in. That's seriously how I was speaking. This is back in, like, I don't know. Well, it would have been 2013. And so I said, I'll write the list with you. Come on, we'll just have some fun. So it's like, who do you remember, like, at school, or your, you know, childhood friends, your parents, your sister's friends? And, you know, when you just like, okay, your first job, who do you know? And it's like, even people you didn't want to write down, it's like, I can't write it down. And I actually wrote down my Divine Masculine's name, because I got to that era of when I was working away from home. And then he comes in, like, you know, like a week later. It was a bit like, well, actually 3 people. I'd stated to this girl I was working with, I said, if you just leave the list alone, just see who actually just reaches out. I really wasn't aware of any of this law of attraction stuff. Well, a little bit, law of attraction, but not actually the journey of, let's say, divine. Oh, I was going to say divineness. And so that was another sync that had happened. What else? I've gone off again, see? Now you've done it. Well, I don't want to keep secrets. I said to my, I keep saying, no, I haven't said it to Emily twice. I said it to Emily once. I said it to Jamie. Interesting. They didn't even, well, Emily gave a response. She said no. I said to her, would you be able to take a lie detector test right now? And she was like, no. I said, I could. Seriously. So, it's not about causing trouble, but it's about knowing how to explain the situation. Did I give you some tips in that kind of rambling? Rule number 1, don't mess with married people. I couldn't help it. It seriously is like that, though. The attraction between 2 divine counterparts, you seriously can't help it. Okay. Well, I hope this reading helped. I will catch up with you guys soon. Maybe I've told you too much. I don't know how. Unless some people are watching who shouldn't be watching. Or why would they be watching? How are they watching? How do you know where I'm residing? Okay. Much love. Take care. Bye for now.